Hi, this is the second set of notes for Unit 2. This is on collaboration and workflow, or communication within a team. First, I want to talk to you about the difference between groups and teams. Groups are two or more people interacting and influencing each other, and usually a group is comprised of 3 people with an upward limit, possibly to 5 people. That's the ideal limit. But a group is just a collection of individuals. Teams, on the other hand, are smart groups. These can be 2 or more people who do a variety of things. For example, share leadership, create a shared identity, plan and talk in advance. And the one thing that you need to remember is that teams are groups, but groups are not teams. There's also differences in decision making between teams and groups. A group doesn't talk about the ways of making decisions, it just does it. Teams, on the other hand, talk about the proper way to make decisions. And teams are more likely to make decisions about the way decision making occurs because they are concerned with equality and about how to do their job. Let's talk for a minute about Tuckman's 4 stages of teaming because, as you know, you're going to be placed in teams, and some of the projects that you do for this class are team-centered projects. Tuckman says that there are 4 stages to an effective team. The first stage is the forming, or the get-to-know-you phase. Here, team members assess their strengths and abilities of each other. The second stage is storming, or managing conflict within the team. The third stage is norming, which is determining team roles. And the fourth stage is performing, or improving the process in ways that improve the quality of the work. Let's look at each one of these in more depth. First of all, forming, the roles of team members. Formal roles and informal roles happen in the forming stage. So for example, formal roles could be those public roles that are either elected or appointed, such as the chair, the timekeeper, the project manager, the coordinator, the editor, so forth. Informal roles, on the other hand, are what people bring with them. These are actually more like personality traits. So for example, you can have people who typically are more task-oriented. In other words, they're concerned about getting the work done. Or people who are more social, making sure everyone is feeling included and belongs in the group. Or finally, and this is the least desirable of all of them, you might have someone who is disruptive. This person who doesn't really want to talk about the items at hand, they prefer to talk about other stuff. After the first phase of teaming, we come to the second stage, which is storming. And storming involves careful planning, or it should involve careful planning in order to minimize conflict. In the storming phase, it's very important to define team member responsibilities. And for your teams, you have 4 different types of roles that you will be performing. One will be the coordinator, or also sometimes known as the project manager, researchers, an editor, and a designer. And of course, everyone is a writer, so everyone contributes to the writing. But we do need someone that will organize and make sure that the team is headed in the right direction, and also make sure that assignments are submitted on time. That's the coordinator. The team needs researchers. Those are the individuals who go out and find out the information, make sure that that information is documented correctly inside the document itself. And then, of course, the editor is important for making sure that the document's layout and design is well done, that there aren't any mistakes as far as spelling, grammar, or punctuation. And then finally, the designer. The designer also works on the layout and design of the document, and also works with visuals, images, creating charts and graphs, and so forth. Another important part of storming is to create a project calendar. So very important to set deadlines for yourself and make sure that the team is staying on track to meet those deadlines. You want to write out a work plan. Again, this has to do with coincides with your project calendar, and the work plan, of course, then would detail what steps or stages of the project are going to be done by whom and by what time. You need to agree on how conflicts will be resolved, and one of the things that you'll be creating is a team contract And so in that team contract, you want to consider how you want to resolve conflicts and what sort of issues are non-negotiable. And um, I hope that this doesn't happen, but if in the event that you needed to fire a team member because of non-compliance or because of non-performance, that you have written that into your contract as well, what it would take in order to be fired from the team. So we want to think about efficacy versus efficiency. Let's think for a moment about how to problem solve, especially in the storming phase. So let's say a conflict does arise. What are you going to do? Well, the first thing you want to do is to identify what is the problem. So what is the problem, the task, the opportunity, whatever it is that's presenting itself. You want to be able to define that and then identify and agree on criteria for a solution. Try to generate as many possible solutions as you can, so a quantity, a number of them. And then out of that large number of possible solutions, you want to select the best solution for whatever problem it is. Develop some sort of implementation plan. Develop a review procedure to make sure that the implementation is effective. And then establish a procedure and process of workflow. You also want to create parameters for decision making, either formally, such as a team contract, which you will be doing, or even informally by consensus as you're working through the various projects. If serious conflict arises, and once in a while that does happen, the thing that you'd want to do is to choose a mediator. Now, if it's a very, very serious issue, then I will step in as a mediator, but it's my preference that if you do have a little bit of conflict on your team, that you try to resolve that first yourselves. But if, however, it does get to the point where you're unable to resolve it, I will be available and will stand as a mediator. If I do have to become your mediator, I will ask that all parties involved would state their position, so tell me their side of the story. I would try to identify the issues. I would prioritize those issues from most to least important, address each issue separately, trying to find middle ground so that we can reach some kind of consensus, and then come to an agreement that both sides could accept. After the storming phase comes what's called the norming phase. This is the identification of team roles. And I want to talk about some of these different kinds of roles and break them down a little bit. So I gave you some broad roles earlier, but now I want to give you some specific breakdowns of those roles. So in the people-oriented kinds of roles, we have the coordinator. This person sets the agenda. A resource investigator. This is someone that finds information and ideas. A team worker likes to get the job done. We also have something called action-oriented roles, and these roles can overlap. So it's not like one person is just this role. They may be a combination of a few different ones. In the action-oriented roles, we have a shaper. This person looks for patterns inside of team tasks. This person emphasizes completion. An implementer. The implementer likes to turn abstract ideas into concrete deliverables. The completer or finisher stresses attention to details and quality of work. We also have something called cerebral roles. So these are the kind of roles that involve more thinking, more planning. The monitor or evaluator, this is the kind of person that will keep the team on task with critique of poor decisions and flaws in reasoning. The innovator thinks creatively and stresses innovation and big picture. And the specialist contributes special skill and knowledge to the team. So I'm going to ask, how do you see yourself? In what number of roles do you see yourself? Are you more people-oriented? Or are you action-oriented? Or are you more cerebral? And again, you could be a combination of one or two or three or many of these different kinds of roles depending upon the situation and the context that you find yourself in. The last stage is called the performing stage, and so this is planning to complete the project. You want to define your project mission and objectives early on, and of course, part of that will come from me as I give you different assignments. Some of those objectives will already be written in for you, so that's helpful. One thing you want to ask, though, once you get that assignment is to find out or figure out what the subject is, what are you being asked to do, what are you not being asked to do, and basically what are the parameters and boundaries of the project. What's the purpose or the mission statement of the project? Who are the readers or the clients? What's the context? And remember, context can be physical, it can be economic, political, ethical, social. What are those factors or constraints that influence the project? We want to identify project outcomes. In other words, what do we want to accomplish from this project? These should be tangible results, and we should be able to convert our objectives into measurable results. We want to specify the deliverables that the project will produce, and we want to think about how the project will end, because obviously we want to not only begin well but end well. Okay, so this is the second of the set for Unit 2. There's one more in this set in which we will be talking about different genres of business communication. So I'll stop for now, and I will talk to you later.